Hello, everyone. I'm JEAN-CLAUDE Beyond Mystic, and welcome to today's movie Decode. As the poster suggests, we're looking at the Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And with us today, of course, is the author of The Great Cross of Henday. You can find that book on Amazon. He's also the producer of JFK-X. Really cool documentary for which I interviewed him a couple of months ago. To check that out. You can find his work at jweidner.com and also here on his YouTube at Reality Check. Mr. Jay Weidner. Jay, welcome back. How are you, man?
Hey, good to be back.
Happy to have you on. And folks, please also join me in welcoming the lovely and talented Meg Moonbeam. You can find her consultations here at beyondmystic.net. And she's also teaching at the moment astrology level 2 here on the Academy. Meg, welcome back. How are you?
Doing very well. I love doing these movie deco shows with you, so very happy to be back.
Happy to have you on. And folks, thank you for joining us today. We're triple casting on YouTube, X, and also here on Rumble. We'll try to take your comments as we go along here in the show. And if you haven't already watched part 1, the Terminator Decode, we recorded on June 5th. I recommend you go check that out. You can watch it here on our Rumble or also on Jay's YouTube channel there. Again, Reality Check. Okay, so I'm excited to get into this today. And I find that we're maybe barreling faster and faster towards this particular scenario. I just watched an interview with Catherine Austin Fitz and Greg Hunter the other day talking about the perils of AI. She says, digital control, you have been warned. So we're going to try to weave that in today because there's an angle of the financial system in this whole scenario. Now, in the movie, they talk about using AI in terms of these war games and defense programs and defense contractors, and then eventually taking its own life and doing what's it's about to do here in the Decode today. But here we're looking at another angle where we are actually teaching AI, and this was what Catherine Austin Fitz was warning about. All of this as we're sitting on the precipice of not the death of the US dollar, but the announcement of the death of the US dollar, and of course, what's happening with the BRICS nations. Jay, to set this up for the audience members here today, what have you been tracking since we did that first decode on June 5th? We have, of course, a nuclear sub just on the coast of Florida in the last couple of days here, suggesting that things are about to get very hot indeed. So how do we set this up for the audience?
Yeah, well, let's hope we don't go to war. It looks like it's probably going to be some kind of proxy war, not a full on, but I don't know. There's lots of movement going on right now, and lots of stuff moving around, and it's all kind of weird and scary and all of the above. But I live out in the mountains, so I'm way far away from everybody, and so I can only get it through the internet. I don't really talk to many people out here, but I think that Catherine is right about what's going to be happening with AI, and they're going to track it. Even Bitcoin is tracked. Everything is tracked. So that looks like the future. So cash transactions are probably going to go away eventually. She says, spend every Friday, I think, spend cash all day. I do that. By the way, I have a Cash Friday, and I'm adamantly against the central bank digital dollar. I think it's the most horrendous thing I've ever heard. I think Bitcoin will do it and run around of that, though. But yeah, there's a lot going on, man. I've never seen so much going on as I see right now, and not all of it's bad. There's like a lot of breakthroughs going on that you would almost have to say are alchemical in nature, and I've never quite seen anything like it. It has to do with somehow the internet got so mature that ideas are being able to be tossed around now in such a fast way that if you're a smart person and you're taking it all in, you can start figuring out what's going on a front that they don't want. So, and this goes in with what we're talking about here today, because so what we have is we have a central authority, especially here in the United States. I don't want to name the 3 letters or anything, but we kind of know who they are, and they've been kind of running the place for a long time now. And they have a rival and their rival is the Office of Naval Intelligence, or the Navy. And the Navy was the original intelligence agency for the United States, and then they got taken over in 1947. And they tried to centralize intelligence agencies, which isn't a bad thing. But the Navy has a whole bunch of secrets, and they don't want to give them away.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in a war. And I think that they realized about 8 or 9 months ago that they aren't going to win this war politically, that the forces are just too strong. And so what they've done, and I've traced back all of this, is, and it's always the Navy is the original point where it starts, is they're releasing free energy, plasma generating machines that can get you from Montreal to Australia in like 3 hours. You're spending most of the time slowing down. I don't know. It's like we're right on the edge of some kind of amazing thing. And it seems to be a rear guard action, because every time I try to find out where the source of everything comes from, it's either the Naval Reserve or the Naval Academy or some offshoot of the Navy. There's one guy out there right now who's really making some waves with his new invention that he says you can build this thing for under $400 and it'll power up the whole neighborhood. And then I chased him back, and even though he's Australian, he served in the Navy in a research capacity. So there's a lot of really interesting things happening, and they have to do with technology and the rise of this almost anti-Terminator technology is what it is. It's technology that cleans up the environment. It's technology that if you stick it on the end of your exhaust, what comes out your exhaust is oxygen. It literally can transmute elements. As you know, Ken Schwartz talks about how they can create gold now in the lab.
Oxyfusion. Yeah.
And through fusion. That's what this is all about, by the way. It's all fusion. That's what's going on, cold fusion. And it's really kind of an anti-Terminator rebellion, you might say.
It's kind of cool you say that, because in Terminator 2, we have the anti-Terminator. We'll get to that in a moment. I'll play the clip. We're, of course, entering sci-fi world. This is why we're decoding these shows here today, to kind of help us navigate all of this. Clips in the chat also, he says, yes, in chaos, there is opportunity. Totally agree with that. And in terms of naval intelligence, I'm happy you brought that up. There's this other fellow right now. If you haven't seen him on YouTube, he's done a couple of interviews, Admiral Tim Gallaudet. And I've sent him an invitation. I want to get him on the show here because, again, this is a ranking guy. A couple of stars on his shoulders talking about USOs, underwater submerged objects, and UAPs encounters, and the narrative of disclosure here, how perhaps Arrow is running interference in our world. But all of this is coming out, and there are more and more people in the scientific community looking at this. So I'm hoping to have this guy on the show soon to have this conversation. Before we start, let me play the trailer, I guess, for Terminator 2. It's about a 2-minute trailer here. I'm going to switch slide decks for a second. Share that with the audience members to set the stage. Again, here, as it pertains to programming AI, or the anti-AI here for this particular decode here today. So let me just stop this one and share this window here for you guys. Okay, so let's play this one here. Yes.
Same MEG. These were taken at the West Temple Police Station, 1984. You were there. Same model. These were taken today.
You have to let me see my son. He's in great danger.
New mission. Once he was programmed to destroy the future.
I would have loved to try to kill one of these things.
Now his mission, get down, is to protect it. Come with me if you want to live.
You're really real.
His loyalty is to a child.
Who sent you?
You did. 75 years from now. And his enemy.
He's a Terminator like you, right?
Not like me. Is the deadliest machine ever built.
Can I be your child?
I know. This time, there are two. Terminator 2.
You just can't go around cheering people.
Why? If you thought you had seen it all, look again.
Stay down!
Go now!
Stick together!
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This time, he's back. Good. Trust me.
Okay, that's just fucking cool, guys. If you like Terminator 1, and if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, of course, we're going to get into some cool stuff here today. But wow, what a trailer. And also, there's quite a leap in the technology being used in the movie, the special effects. A lot more money went into this movie than the first one. Your first reaction is just going back here, looking at the trailer with us here today, Jay, and how that sets in for this reversal that we're going to be talking about here today.
Yeah, so Cameron, he had his first failure in the movie before this movie, The Abyss, which was it lost money, and it was a shaky. Although I loved it, it was a shaky film. It didn't have quite the right plot, and definitely didn't have the right ending that it needed, and so it failed at the box office. So he really needed to come back because he'd had two gigantic hits with Terminator and then Aliens, and so he was kind of reeling, didn't really know how to deal with failure, and so he chose to do this film, and he had a gigantic budget, and he wanted to carry out with some of the other ideas that had been sort of touched on in the first film, but not really taken to their deep core. It's just a pretty good, fun action film. What the film is, it's still about Sophia battling the dark forces, but now she's converted one of the archons over to helping her, which is kind of the funny part of the movie. And Schwarzenegger's great in the movie and everything. And by the way, Brad Fidel, who wrote the music to the movie, is a good friend of mine, and I forgot to say it last time. And he wrote both the first one and the second one. He does a great synthesizer soundtrack, and he's a great composer. And all in all, it's a great film. It's Cameron at the height of his game, and the dangers of the future technology aren't quite as exemplified in this movie. It's more action oriented, as was the first movie, but there's still that one curious part of the movie where the truck slams into the tunnel, where it says 9 feet 11 inches above the tunnel. It's like, that one gets me every time I see it. I just don't know what to tell you.
But that's just a conspiracy theory, Jay. Nobody's linking this with 9/11. No. We can't get into that. We're on YouTube.
No vehicles rammed into structures on 9/11, so we don't have to worry about that coincidence.
No. There's perfectly good explanations for the third building going down. Okay, just to echo you, I loved The Abyss. I was mesmerized by this movie as a kid too. Surprisingly, it didn't do better at the box office, but I thought it was absolutely amazing. Ed Harris did a wonderful job on this movie as well. Now we get into this transformation of Sarah Connor. We kind of alluded to it in the first episode, how we're seeing Sarah as humanity here, waking up to the realities, very sheltered, very naive in the first movie, and by the end of it, taking charge of the movie. And here, of course, in Terminator 2, she comes back ripped and ready to go, and she's quite a force to be reckoned with. There's a little bit of an insight there to the next following movie at the end of the series there, but just to show the evolution of all this. So on one hand, we have humans evolving, but on the other hand here too, as Jay just mentioned, Sophia then takes over control of the Terminator, reprograms that, and uses uses it against them, against this
Mhm.
brand new Terminator, the liquid metal guy there we just saw in the preview. Let me ask you, Meg, first of all, a big thank you again for bringing up all the astrology for this movies. Guys, if you want to go back to the first one, you could take snapshots of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Cameron in terms of their astrology, how that lines up to the movie, why they chose those dates. But your first reactions here before we get into the astrology, watching this T2 for the first time too, and how that sets the stage for the transformation of humanity we're going through right now. What were your first reactions, Meg?
Well, at first, I got a little bit traumatized and freaked out because it was not just one Terminator coming from the future, it was two Terminators coming from the future. And I'd never seen Terminator 2 or 3. I'd only seen the second one before we did this movie Decode series. So I was like, oh my God, is this movie going to be two Terminators going after John Connor? This is too intense. I don't know if I can do this. But then when you see that, no, Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator is actually the good guy in this movie, compared to the what's it called? The T-1000 Terminator that the other villain plays is the bad one. So I love that we had the positive side of the transhuman and also the negative side of it, that AI, which I'm not trying to propagate AI, but just saying it could do amazing things for humanity, right? We could have these amazing AI robots, but at the same time, the dark side is we could have these totally evil ones, like the T-1000 that is made of liquid metal, and there's no way you can kill it until the end of the movie when there's a way that they can kill it. But I just love that we had the dichotomy of both the light and the dark Terminators battling it out. And I love the character of Sarah Connor so much that in the first movie, we knew she was going to become a badass, but we hadn't seen her as that yet. And I was sharing in our last movie, Decode, that she reminded me of all of us and the journey that we've been on, before we go into the war, whatever that war is. For her, it's with the Terminators. For us right now, it kind of is with Terminators and machines, but also, mind control and a psychological war. And if you had told any of us 5 years ago what we would be going through the 2000s, I think we all would have said, no way I can handle it. Don't think I'll be able to survive that. Like, how are we going to get through that? But we did. And it actually makes us stronger. And Sarah Connor in this movie reminds me of all of us again, our Truther Freedom community, because we see her in the mental institution being called crazy. Right. And they're all making fun of her. And she's screaming at the top of her lungs, like, you guys don't fucking understand. Judgment Day is coming. Like, she's totally freaking the hell out. Right. And it reminded me of all of us and how, I don't know about you guys, but there's been many multiple scenarios for me in the past few years where I've literally been kind of yelling at people I love, like, you guys don't fucking get it. You're all going to die. Don't do this. Don't do that. Right. And then at a certain point, she surrenders. And she plays the game to be able to she outsmarts the situation. Right. Which I feel like is also what we need to do right now. So I really I actually like the second one better than the first one, I think.
Oh, me too. Me too. The one part that's interesting at the beginning of the show, and I want your take on this, Jay, is that when the reprogrammed Terminator is asked about the better version of himself on whether or not it can be killed, the answer is unknown. Right. So at that point of the stage, and it perhaps that's the point where we are now at humanity, we don't know yet if we can conquer AI. But apparently we can. There's hopes to it that the future is not written, as it's being said here in the first movie. Also, speak about that unknown part of AI, that choice that we both individually and collectively have to make if we get back into the Gnostic versions of all this, to grow humanity out of the matrix of control we're in now. How do you tie that into that particular phrase in the movie when he says unknown and the future is unwritten? Share that with the audience, Jay.
Yeah, so I direct you to a article, I think it was 2004, so 20 years ago, by Sun Microsystems founder Bill Joy. It's called "Why the Future Doesn't Need Us." And what happened to him was he had met Ray Kurzweil, and they were exchanging emails. And he got an email from Ray one day, and he started reading it, and he didn't know he was reading it. It was this incredible critique of technology. And he'd never read anything so precise and correct about technology. And he got about 3 or 4 pages into this thing, and he decided, I got to find out, is this Ray or who's saying this? So he goes to the end of the email, and it's Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber's manifesto that he was reading. And he realized that Ted Kaczynski was actually close to the money. And so that prompted him to write this article, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, because he wanted us to know about the dangers that technology can create for us, and the ethical problems that it's going to create. And it's a real eye-opening article. And I remember reading it when it came out and thinking, yeah, that could be true. So what we have right now is like the AI that's being out there right now. They say it has like an IQ of 120, something like that, the Chat GPT, which I really doubt. I'd say more like 90. But they say it's going to hit 200 in a couple of years, and then 500, and then be pass all human intelligence. To which I say, are we going to pay attention to something that's so intelligent that we can't understand it? And I don't think we will. I think we'll just reject it. If it's way over our head, we're just going to go, I don't know what you're talking about, and walk away from it. So I'm not sure I see that happening, but where I see it screwing up is like AI that runs an insurance company and decides that you're a risk when you actually made a mistake. And then you can't get that mistake corrected because it's AI. I look for more kind of that stuff, low flying accidents that will happen that you can't get out of, a ticket that you can't pay, something where the AI gets caught in a loop and can't get out of it. And but we have weapon systems that are unimaginable, and I've been talking to a lot of people high up in military circles, and they're telling me about some of the plasma weapons that we have and things. So pretty much I was told that no one will ever screw with the United States because we have something that is so powerful and they've demonstrated it apparently somehow to our enemies, that we have something so powerful that literally no one will ever attack us. So we're at this precipice now where dark forces are at work, and they want to use the machines on their side, and the WEF people. And if anybody's going to create Terminators, it's going to be that Harari guy, So he hates the human race, and so he would like nothing more than have a bunch of machines running around, killing everybody. So we're here, but I'm actually optimistic because of these new technologies that are coming out that seem to be ramped up against this kind of thing. And if you have a resonant frequency technology that can knock out machines from 5 miles away, well, and you can build it from the internet, get the plans on the internet and go down to the hardware store and build it, where are we going to be? And we're literally that close to these exotic technologies because what's going on here is the people that are releasing all this aren't going and getting patents. They're just putting it out open source on the internet. I mean, I can go look and see what they're doing, and can go down to the Home Depot and buy everything I need to generate gobs of free electricity. So it's not free, but that's a misnomer. But so we're in the revolution right now. That's what's going on. We're in and it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a bloody revolution. It's going to be really a civil war of technologies.
Oh, well, I think Cliff described it as an innovation boom that's just about to occur, that's just around the corner. And that's on one hand, very exciting.
That's a perfect way to think about it, because once you take these exotic things that are coming out that are almost alchemical because they're transmuted, and you add the AI to it, like the Chat GPT or whatever, man, you're opening up some seriously powerful drawers there, and you might be able to create anything. And that's the danger also that we're in, because the reason that these technologies have been hidden is because you literally shake the planet apart.
It's
So
disruptive in a sense that it could blow us apart, but it's also disruptive
absolutely.
to the control matrix. So we're at that point now. Really appreciate that. Meg, can we go through here? I brought up the 3 slides here. People can take
Mhm.
a snapshot and go back, but this was the original decode we did. And
Yeah.
with all fairness, and what was a big surprising is all 3 of them, Linda Hamilton, Schwarzenegger, and Cameron,
Mhm.
they all had something very similar in their charts. Speak to that first, and then we're going to go look at the chart of the launch of the Terminator 2 and how we continue here in this understanding and tracking astrological alignments with some of these launches and these messages that are being sent out throughout our consciousness. So talk about the recurring patterns that we saw in these 3 main characters.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up. It's not normal. And I'll just preface this by saying, yes, a lot of us have synchronicities and similarities between our birth charts because there are repeating, cycles and patterns. But for 3 completely different people, James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Linda Hamilton, to have these several similarities in their charts is highly rare and synchronistic. So I just wanted to preface by saying that it's not normal. All of them had, first of all, a Leo stellium of planets in their birth chart, which isn't really surprising to me because Leo is the sign that rules filmmaking, performing, being an artist, being like the hero or lead in a movie or a director. So they all had a Leo stellium. And they all had what I found really interesting, one of the most intense aspects in astrology in their charts. So for James Cameron, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, he had his sun conjunct Pluto. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I believe, also had his sun conjunct Pluto. And then Linda Hamilton had, I think it was Saturn square Pluto. So they all had a main astrological aspect with one of the 2 heavy malefics of Saturn or Pluto. So it's, a part of their destiny to kind of have a foot in the darker side of life, if you will. And what I notice looking at people's charts all the time is when they've got heavy Pluto influence or Saturn influence, the malefics, you can kind of make a choice. Do you want to go down that dark road, or are you going to expose the dark road? So I think there's a little bit of both with maybe all of them, that they did play out that dark side, that maybe dark art side a little bit, but also they were exposing transhumanism in these movies. They were doing light work in these movies. I do believe that. So it's interesting how they have those similarities.
Okay, very good. Now let me bring up the first slide you prepared for today. We're looking at the astrology here of the release date of July 3rd, 1991 for Terminator 2. So there's 2 slides. Take your time here. Go through these items for the audience. Meg.
Yeah, so I got actually really excited when I brought up the movie release date chart, which is July 3rd, 1991, because there's something I've never talked about on Beyond Mystic before or on any channels before that is actually one of the I think most interesting current astrological influences, which is the fact that the year this movie got released, 1991, was the starting year of a great conjunction between Uranus and Neptune. And Uranus and Neptune are 2 of the outer planets that take a very long time to do their zodiac revolutions in the Western astrology through all the signs. So 91, 92, 93, 94, we had Uranus conjunct Neptune. Now, this only happens every 170 years. And why I think this is so interesting, and it's tied into modern day, is because actually I was born 1992. And my fellow 90s babies, we have this conjunction, and we're actually the matrix breakers, if you will. We're going to be the people that actually, well, everyone alive is. It doesn't matter what year you were born, but we're like the new generation coming in that is actually going to be the new leaders where we dismantle the matrix that has been. And I thought it was really cool that in the movie, we get shown John Connor, the child, which it's filmed in, I think, set in the 80s or the early 90s, the movie. But he's kind of that symbology of that child in the Uranus-Neptune conjunction that is the rebel gene right? He's the rebel. We see that he breaks the rules. He does some illegal things. He doesn't like to follow the norm. He's the rebel gene that then dismantles the transhumanism, dismantles the matrix. And it's interesting because we are living in the year right now that they predicted in the original Terminator movie was when, what was it they said? 2024 was when the Great War started.
When they released these robots, this
when they
first
released,
version. Yeah.
right. So when they released these robots. So yeah, many of the children born 91, 92, 93, 94 are starseed light workers and have a similar mission as John Connor in the Terminator movie. So they're here to dismantle the matrix, which is Capricorn. That Neptune-Uranus conjunction happened in the sign of Capricorn. So we're dismantling the old government structures, the old leadership structures, the transhumanism, which is Uranus. And a lot of us do that through, it sounds funny, but through memes and being like digital meme warriors. So it's not like a war of, boots on the ground, we're going to fight the robots and it's going to be bloody. It's through Uranus, the internet, the memes, through social media, like what I'm doing right now on this video, talking to you guys. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, people on TikTok, Instagram. So I think there's a really interesting synchronistic correlation between the character of John Connor and a whole generation of people that many of them are probably watching this video right now on our channels that are these rebel gene next generation. Mm-hmm. So I found it really interesting that this movie came out during that conjunction.
I want to add something there too. First of all, thank you for that. It makes a lot of sense. And when we look at John Connor himself in the movie, at the beginning of movie, he's kind of like on the fence, I guess, with his mom. He believes what she's saying. He understands what she's saying to some extent. He's trained in all of that. He knows it, but he doesn't know it. There's still a doubt that maybe his mom is still crazy, right? But then when he meets the Terminator, it's like, oh shit, you're actually real. We'll get into the police psychologist who goes through that same reaction later on in life too. And we have to correlate that with what's happening now. I believe that's what we're seeing in humanity, and perhaps it's this time frame of the people born in the years you're just saying now, who have been looking at all these conspiracies over the last number of years, knowing deep down something's wrong, but still leaving doubt that shit, maybe they were crazy, or the Alex Jones they were listening to was crazy. But now, as they're seeing one after the other, all of these conspiracy theories become fact, they go into, holy shit, this thing is true. And that really catapults them into their mission. Speak about that, Jay, the Gnosticism about getting from the knowing, doing the hero's journey, and getting into that alignment with one's mission, and that critical appointment of the aha spark. I think this James Cameron did that very well in that scene with John Connor. Go ahead.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that year, 91. That was in 91. I'd been living in Seattle for a couple of years, and left Hollywood and went to Seattle. And I had the radio on one day, and I heard a guy talking. It was a public radio, and I recognized his voice. He was a guy who invested in a movie that I'd made some years earlier, when he was in Hollywood and I was in Hollywood. And so I called up the radio station a couple days later, and I asked if that guy was there. I'm not going to say his name. And he said, oh, yeah, he's here. Can I talk to him? And ended up, we went out to lunch, and we're out to lunch. We're talking about old times. And he says, hey, I've got a 6-hour, every Friday and Saturday, I have 3-hour slot open at night. I'm looking to do anything you want. You can talk to anybody you want. You can do anything you want. What do you say? And I was like, well, now. And so in 91, I took this job, and I had completely free, open thing to do anything I wanted. So first thing I had on was Terrence McKenna and Noam Chomsky, and I just started blowing everybody's mind and causing the station managers to call me up in front of the board like 4 times. And then we had our fundraiser, because you don't advertise on public radio. So we had our first fundraiser. I started in March 91. We had our first fundraiser in July 91. The station usually brought in about $100,000 during a fundraiser, and my 6 hours, we brought in $150,000, and the whole rest of the radio station brought in like $60,000. And so I was in, and I knew that I'd hit it, because what I did was one day would be 3 hours of conspiracy, then the next day would be 3 hours of esoteric stuff like astrology and alchemy and all this. And that's where I actually built the brand that Gaia became, because I learned that there was this incredible combination of taking dark conspiracies, but making sure that you have a solution, right? And then have the opposite, which is learn how to meditate and learn how to read the stars and learn how to live an esoteric life. And so I got to test market the whole thing right in those years, 91, 92, 93, and 94 is when I did it. And then I got hired by Gaia. So it was like, boom, I was out of there. But it was an amazing time, because at the same time, Art Bell was coming on and doing it. And at the same time, there's somebody else that was doing, X-Files started at that time too. So it was like, at the time, 30 years ago, it was like, we were all going, wow, what's going on here? Like, we've been in this darkness for our whole life, and just whispering these things to each other. And then all of a sudden, if there's a TV show about it, there's a giant, huge talk show about it. There's little tiny stations all over the country, like I was doing, like people just rising up out of the blue and saying, no, we're done with your crap. And so it's just kind of interesting, because that time was an amazingly heady time for the world of the awakening. It was the beginning of the awakening. It actually was the beginning of the awakening. And I think that Terminator and James Cameron, I think James Cameron has always been part of the awakening. All of his movies have a kind of an awakening about them. Maybe not so much that one, True Lies, but all the rest do, even his Avatar movies. So, he was kind of born into that era too. And by the way, Stanley Kubrick's a Leo too.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the hero's journey. So,
this critical point when John Connor realizes that everything his mom has told him, even though he had a feeling for it, he didn't really know until this critical point, and then suddenly, now I can't go back. It's the door you can't close, right? You're really in the thick of things here. Explain that moment and how it appears humanity is here now also.
Yeah, so he realized that this was really true, and then the whole dawning of what it all really meant to him, happens to him, that this is all true and mom isn't crazy. And then my favorite part of the movie is when Sarah goes after the engineer. I really like the guy that plays the engineer. That was his first role. He's a really good actor. But it's kind of too bad they didn't take the John Connor in the third and fourth ones to where it could have developed his character. That was one of the things I was kind of disappointed in, was that John Connor's character never really got developed beyond the character that's in this movie, which I really like, by the way. I think the kid is amazing. But yeah, I mean, that's what we all come to face. It's that moment, like I was just telling you about taking that radio show. It's that moment when you're saying, no, got to stand up to this now. You can't be pushed around anymore. We're done. And I think we're at that point right now. I know I'm at that point. I'm at that point where it's like, no, I'm not afraid to die. So if you're going to do this, then we're going to have to come to that. And I can just feel the whole kind of country and the world kind of reaching the same conclusion. It's like, do I want to live in a WEF dominated Terminator world where everything I do is, I have to turn down my thermostat because I'm getting e-messages from the government that my thermostat's up too high or too low or whatever. And that's where we're headed. And we cannot let that world happen. We just cannot.
I'm trying to find some of the images. Here's one here, of course. And
he's great.
Yeah, he does a really good job.
The scaredest look on his face.
He's like, fuck, man. I'm just an engineer. Yeah. Meg, okay, so let's go back to 1991. I'll bring back that slide for you, Meg. Is there anything else on that first chart you want to go through, or do you want me to go to the second one now?
Just wanted to bring up, and it's interesting, as you were talking, Jay, sorry if I looked distracted. There was like a huge black bird that just like flew into my window right beside me. So I don't know what that means, but yeah, that just happened. What I also wanted to mention with this Uranus-Neptune conjunction is all those kind of 90s, early 90s babies in my generation. We've now gone through our Saturn return. We've now been fully initiated into adulthood. So we're not just like kids anymore. We're all in our 30s now, and we're now stepping into that Saturnian, initiation of what am I going to make my legacy? What am I going to make my adulthood? How can I help serve and protect society? So I think coming into these next few years with this Uranus-Neptune generation now being fully activated in adult mode, if you will, they're going to help us turn around, I think, what you were saying, Jay, and not to say that they're the saviors, only the 90s babies, because it's all of us, but they're going to have a really big part of starting to step into those new leadership roles, creating new leadership structures outside of the WEF, outside of the governments that are at the moment. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what that generation does in the coming few years.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Clips in the chat. He says, "You'll never be safe, so be deadly." Yeah, beat a Sarah Connor. Be deadly here.
Exactly.
And then, part 2. Exactly.
There's
Okay,
no
go
such
ahead.
thing as safety.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get to the second slide for you guys here. Hold on. This one here. Yes, go ahead, Meg.
Yeah, so excuse me, this is interesting because the movie's release was during an eclipse season, which is the biggest events that happen in Western astrology when we have eclipses. It's, major chapters in our personal and collective lives coming to an ending, and also new ones beginning. And so this movie release was between 2 eclipses. One was a full moon eclipse in Capricorn on June 26, 1991. This was a very big release portal of malefic government structures, leaders, and control agendas that do not serve the people. So Capricorn ruled government.
You say July 26th or June 26th?
Sorry, June 26th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, June 26, 1991. And it's interesting because the South Node is very hidden. It's very mysterious. It's not the North Node. The North Node is the solar eclipse point. It's out in the open. We all see it. Whereas the South Node's more hidden. So there was something going on when this movie came out around this time that there was some kind of, according to the Western astrology, cleansing out of very malefic governmental structures or forces or leaders. So don't know if anybody knows about that at the moment, or if that's going to be revealed at some point coming up. And then what I also found really interesting was the new moon eclipse in Cancer on July 11th, 1991, was bringing new, fresh energy and new beginnings, because that's what new moon eclipses do, to the Cancer-ruled areas of life for the whole collective for the whole next 1992 year period. And it's interesting because this is around the time, and I know it was more mid-90s, late 90s, but this is when it kind of started that Cancer is our home, family, home environment, that more technology, while that Uranus-Neptune conjunction was happening, Uranus is technology, big technology changes happen in the home environment. People started to bring in the internet into the homes. People started to bring in computers, cell phones. It was the very beginnings of that. I'm aware of that, but that's a huge shift in our energies, having Wi-Fi and internet and these things now in the home family unit. And it was a new beginning moving forward for all of us with that. So interesting that the movie came out around that time as well.
I had my first router, I think, in 1990. It could have been mid-90s or 91. And I remember my buddy in university, his name was Joel. We decided to send each other a file for our some type of report we're doing for a math class. And we dialed up each other here to send that particular file. And this guy lives 30 minutes away from my house. And so we were at my house. We made this connection. We pressed send button. And then we drove all the way to this house. And the thing was still receiving. And it was just this one little image. So it was slow, but it was like, oh my God, I just sent you this file electronically. We were so excited about that, and the prospect of what that would bring. And I remember that summer going to this conference in Ottawa. It was called the information superhighway conference, right? Those are the terms we were using at the beginning of the internet. I thought that was fascinating. I've been excited by technology all of this time, and we didn't really see the downfall of that. All I saw were people saying, "Oh, it's just a fad; it won't last." And I was like, "No, no, no." I knew back then, just like with crypto, oh no, there's something else happening here, and it's changing the world in a big way. Jay, just going back to that June 26, 1991, you were scratching your head too. Is there a redirect to? I'm trying to remind myself too of anything that could have been happening in the background here too, with respect to this release of this malefic government structures or forces. Perhaps this is also something off-world that was attached to us. Does that ring a bell to anything, Jay? Do you want to add to that?
Well, I'm trying to think. When was the? No, that wasn't then. We were just at that. It was just a really weird time. Perestroika was going on, and Glasnost, and um, everybody was pretty tired of Bush as
Yeah.
president, and looking for some young blood to come in. I don't know if we got what we wanted, but we were looking for it. I didn't vote for Bill Clinton, but I didn't vote for Bush either. And but it was a time where everything was changing. It really was, but it was changing not on so much a physical level. It was more like it was a spiritual change. That's what it felt like at the time. Like all of a sudden, it was okay to talk about stuff that was forbidden before then. And so we did. We just said that's it, and everyone started talking about it. And I actually think Cameron was part of that. I think Cameron also decided that he was just going to start saying stuff and not really caring about what anyone thought about it. And from warnings to aliens to everything, technology. And so yeah, it really, really was a dynamic time. And I really hadn't thought about it until Meg brought it up. In fact, I was, oh yeah, that's right. That was all going on at the same time. And so yeah,
Well, like you said too, just the X-Files, like
just the X-Files
that brought
alone.
so many people into the imagination of the unknown, and
Exactly.
just
And when
that
you found
soundtrack
out
would
Mark
just
Bell doing like 3-hour interviews at
right,
night, and you're like,
yeah,
wow, what's going on here?
right.
And he was a pretty brave guy too. He was interviewing a lot of people that he was getting a lot of crap for.
Mhm.
And so it was just that kind. And something that needs to be contemplated, because you're right. Here we are, what, 32 years later, 33 years later, and a whole generation's rising up now, and they seem the 30-year-olds that I know are the most enlightened people that I know. They're
Mhm.
they're on they're telling their parents what to think,
Right.
and I'm encouraging them. You listen to them. They know what you're talking about. You don't.
In the
And
last show, you said something very profound. I'll try to recap it as I best I remember, but you were talking about this information age, or the information superhighway, as it was called at the time. All of a sudden, we had access to all of this data, right? For humanity, for the first time, it was at our fingertips, but we didn't really know what to make of it until quite a few times later. We had these aggregators that would bring you this information and start connecting the dots. So you went from, okay, I have the knowledge, I have the data, and now I have the knowledge, but now we're going into, how do you call the
wisdom,
last phase? The
wisdom.
the wisdom of it all, right? So I thought that was fascinating. And as you look at this trajectory from 1991 to today, we're getting into that stage now. And this is why perhaps this matrix of control is really collapsing. The
Yeah.
wisdom is coming through it, and it's permeating through everything they're trying to do, even
I
at the
call
height
it
of censorship.
I call it the rebellion of the intelligent.
Yeah.
So the internet, we all have high IQs, but it's how you use it, right? We know lots of high IQ people who did things they shouldn't be doing. So we can't call it IQ. It's another factor that for the awakened ones. But
Cliff High
we
says that it's not just about intelligence; it's about being smart, using that
that's
intelligence
right.
to better your position,
That's
right?
right. Because
Yeah,
I mean, I know PhDs who do a lot of dumb stuff and say a lot of dumb stuff. But what's
right.
going on is the internet, and it's all internet. This is all internet, and that's why this thing I'm telling you about technology is so amazing, because it's like you can actually go back and extrapolate and watch it building on itself. One idea comes out, then the other idea comes out. And, yes, I did the pedigree. Their ideas are all coming from the Navy, but that is not that important. What's important is the ideas. And like we're at the stage now where I'm going to say it's going to be somebody in their 30s, or they're just going to start building free energy devices and start powering them and giving them away for free. That's what's going to happen here, and they're not going to care. They go ahead and kill me. We know everybody that creates free energy devices dies in mysterious and weird ways, and that shouldn't stop us.
Right.
We should keep.
I think as soon as we hit that critical mass or escape velocity, they can't
We're about
put
to hit
it
that.
back in the bat. Yeah,
We're about to hit that mass right now, and I do believe it is the 30-year-olds that are going to drive it, because it certainly can't be us. We can only lead the way.
We were just the blunt instruments that got through the door. Now it's for them to do the next part. I totally agree with that.
Well, I mean, they have 40 years, 50 years left in their lives. They better straighten it out, because they got to live it. We don't. I don't, but they do, and that's why when your life is on the line, start doing things that you don't do otherwise.
Right. Exactly. Well, let's go through that John Connor character as well. So let me see if I can bring up that slide for you on your deck here at Meg. So let's look at the transformation here too. Well, let's look at both. Let's start with Ed first, and then we'll use Robert Patrick at the end. Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with Jay. I love the character of John Connor, played by Edward Furlong. I thought he did a fantastic job. Oops, I made a typo there, you guys. I said they both play the character of T-100. That's not right. Edward plays the character, of course, of John Connor. So he's also a Leo. All these people have Leo in their chart. Yeah, but Robert Patrick, no. He's a huge Scorpio stellium, which makes sense because he plays a lot of really good villains. So for John Connor, played by Edward, he's a Leo sun with Saturn conjunct his sun. I like to call Saturn Granddaddy Saturn in his 11th house. So what did we see? He starred in a movie, Leo, about the future and transhumanism, Aquarius, which is the house of the 11th house. And Saturn conjunct his sun is the planet of hard work, success, and leadership to be successful. But there's always heavy load of responsibility that comes with Saturn. Saturn doesn't give you anything for free. So you'll be successful, you'll be in a leadership position, but there's extremely heavy responsibility you have to carry with that. And it's interesting what you just said, Jay, where you said you feel like it's going to be someone maybe 30-year-old that just, makes the technology and they know they might die, but they'll do it anyways. That's part of this heavy load of this Uranus-Neptune in Capricorn generation that I'm in. It's like, what else do we have to lose? At some point, someone has to step into that sacrificial role. Not saying we have to die, but at some point we have to step into that Capricorn self-responsibility and being of service and say, you know what? If I don't start doing it, then no one's going to start doing it. And then we're all going to become robots and go under the WEF control, right? So it's very interesting how I think his character relates to the 30-year-olds alive today. Of course, he was a lot younger when that was playing out in the movie. And then did you want to speak on that, JC, or do you want me to talk about the Robert Patrick?
No, I'm good. Jay, do you want to add anything about Edward Furlong also, how he ties in?
He only played one, as far as I know. That's the only part he ever played, and it's a testimony to James Cameron's directing ability. Believe me, I've directed kids. That is one pain in the ass, and he got a great performance out of that kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And it brought a lot of comedic relief. Also, the banter between man and machine here was absolutely amazing. Okay, Megan, let's look at Robert Patrick also.
Yeah, Robert Patrick.
It's not the T100. He's the T1000. You're missing a zero there. But yeah, his model is the T1000 as described in the movie. Go ahead.
Yeah, made a typo. Sorry there, you guys. So Robert Patrick, really interesting. He's a sun in Scorpio, like me, with the Scorpio stellium of planets. And as we know, Scorpio is the most intense sign in astrology, associated with death, rebirth, transformation, the dark side of life, villains. Scorpio is about power. What are we going to do with our power? Are we going to use it for good, or are we going to completely go in the dark side and become Klaus Schwab and make the World Economic Forum and, want to rule the world? So Robert Patrick was perfect for playing the villain. He's got a villain look. Astrology can show even how we look, what kind of characters, if we're going to step into acting, we could be good at playing. So he's perfect for the intense villain roles in movies. And in real life, he's actually in like a motorcycle gang or group. I was looking up a little bit of information. He's a motorcycle dude, and he's actually had some very intense Scorpio life experiences where he's almost died. So I think when he plays that villain role, he's channeling some of the traumas that he's been through to be able to, channel that dark side of life. And he did such a great job.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there's that one scene where he's on the motorcycle and he's barely going 1 mile an hour, holding that bicycle really, really strong, using his brake and his gas pedal to center the bike. And it's very hard to do. And I always wondered, was he on a track, or did he actually know how to drive that motorcycle at that low speed and stay straight? I thought it was a good scene. Your understanding of Patrick and of Robert Patrick, Jay, and how he ties into all of this, anything else you want to share in terms of his background and why perhaps he is intense, that's for sure.
And James, that picture that you have of him there, when they asked Cameron why he put Patrick in the movie, he said because he looks like a cat. And if you watch the way he moves, he walks around just like a cat. You look at, cats check everything out when they walk into a room, and they're making sure where the chair's over there and the people are over there. And that's exactly the way he walks around in the movie, like a cat. And he looks like a cat wandering around looking for prey. And so again, he was also in the X-Files, right? Didn't he replace Mulder?
Doggett, Agent Doggett at the end. Yeah, he did well in that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he wasn't a villain though. But
no. It was taken up after what's his name? Mulder left.
Mulder left, right?
Yeah,
Dumbest thing Mulder ever did.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna believe big star. No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Meg. Anything else in the astrology you want to share with us today, with respect to the show? Any other characters or any thoughts of, just looking at the news today, what's happening, how this ties in, why it's important again to maybe go back and watch that movie. We didn't give too many spoiler alerts here too, but at the end, one of my surprise too, and people have talked about this, theorizing that perhaps even right now there could be different types of AIs operating on the planet. Some of them may be born here, some of them may be not, and that some of them might be on the path to help humanity. And what I thought was interesting in this movie, at the end, this AI or this robot basically gives its life to protect humanity. It decides that humanity is worth saving, and at all costs. And that's what happens, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, where the Terminator basically he dies basically, or does he? We'll get into that perhaps in future Decodes, but the point was there's a sacrifice made for humanity. Do you ascribe to that? Have you heard some of these on one hand philosophical conversations, on the other hand very deep woo conversations about the different AIs running on the planet, and whether or not an AI would choose to destroy itself here to save humanity or work on behalf of the highest good of humanity? Jay?
Well, you could program it to do that. I mean, so yeah, you could have an AI like that. I don't know if there's a benevolent programmer that would do that, but I think there probably is. I don't believe that. I believe that the Navy probably has a very advanced form of AI, based not on technology that we currently have, but that they have. And but I don't believe that AI is advanced as everyone thinks it is. And I don't believe that it is going to achieve high intelligence. I mean, it will achieve high intelligence, but like I say, we'll just discard it if we can't understand what it's saying. We're not going to do it. So humans just you're only as smart as you are. You can't go any further. And if you're talking to a machine that's got 1,000 IQ, you're not really going to be able to talk about much, right? So,
And as Cliff says here, a real AI would kill itself just having to deal with stupid humans. Maybe in 1 or 2 years tops. I love that, Cliff. Thank you. Sorry, I started redirecting to you, Meg, and I went to this question. Let's go back to you here. Any other astrology, any other thoughts about the movie and how it relates to the times we're in now? And also let the audience know, for those of them who are interested in knowing how their astrology might, and knowing their astrology and their alignments might help them, of course, navigate this crazy world of ours here. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it definitely relates to the times we're in. And I think it's a really important movie series to watch because we're now in Pluto and Aquarius transit for the next 20 years. And starting on November 18th, after Pluto retrogrades into the Capricorn sign for the very last time in our lifetimes, and there's going to be a huge dismantling of the matrix and financial system like we've never seen, we will be full in Pluto and Aquarius. And, Pluto is the dark side of life, the hidden side of life, but also power at the same time and what we do with that power. And I would say, we're going to witness that dark side before we step into the light side, kind of like with the Terminator movie. Terminator 1, you're just like, oh my God, this is terrifying. It's so scary. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator, and it just seems like there's nothing you can do to destroy it, right? His sole intention is to destroy humans. But then Terminator 2, we see, they could be actually also programmed to help humans and protect us in really powerful ways. So with Pluto in Aquarius, the sign of not just technology, but also weirdness and unpredictability. Things will not be predictable. So in Terminator 2, we see the T-1000 is like made of liquid metal. It's this weird robot made of liquid metal. That's very unpredictable that I wasn't expecting when watching the movie. We're going to see things like that in our lifetime. So we're going to witness very weird things in our lifetime that are not expected, that nobody's talking about right now, because that's Aquarius. It's totally out of the blue and unexpected. But know that we have to see that dark side of it first before we can step into the light side of it, before we can actually get into an advanced place with it. And I do agree with Jay that I don't think the AI is as, advanced as we're being told. I think that there's a lot of fear porn around that to try to disempower us. But I think it can be used for possibly good, but we need to be very careful with it. And we need to understand the dark side first. And along with other technologies, we're going to see, we're on YouTube as well right now, right? So I'll just be careful. But, certain experimental things that have been done, we're going to see the dark side of that as well. And then humanity will never do something like that again, Pluto and Aquarius. So we're stepping into freedom. We're stepping into sovereignty with technology, with AI, but we have to witness that dark night of the soul with it first. So you're asking, JC, how can the astrology help people at this time? It's an amazing time to be looking at your astrology with Pluto going into Aquarius too, because that's the sign that rules astrology. And this is a sacred art that, many people have been, they've tried to demonize it out of us, yet the billionaires and, all the elites use it themselves. So it's a sacred...
Apparently, so too does central casting use astrology. For sure. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a spiritual science, astrology. So it's not just like the information and the meanings come out of nowhere. It's actual science. It's a sacred map we can look at to help us navigate being here in these crazy times. And we can look at any questions we have with the astrology, anything about life, best places to be on the planet, things that are in alignment with us to do. So I love doing the one-on-one readings and meeting everybody. Sorry, my cat is meowing right now if you hear a word sound. So yeah, I have 3 different reading options. The looking at your year ahead, which I think is probably the best one to do at the moment with the times that we're in. The birth chart reading as well, so going deep into your personal birth chart, and the solar return, which is every year on our birthday, our solar return, when the sun returns to the same sign, degree, position as when we were born, shows the influences for that birthday year ahead. That's a nice reading option to give someone for their birthday. So
Absolutely. Guys, if you're looking to book with Meg, go to beyondmystic.net. There's a button there at the top of the page for the consultations. And if you use the coupon code beyondmystic in one word, you'll get an extra 10% off. Thank you so much, Meg, for all your time and your insights again here today. Really appreciate it. Jay, there's a commenter in the chat that says, Jay, I'm waiting for the Elohim, the movie, please. I know you're working on some different projects here. Do you want to give us some hints as to where you are in production and perhaps when the next film/documentary is coming up here for the audience?
Well, first off, I want to wish a happy birthday to Paul McCartney, aka Billy Shepherd, and he's supposedly 82, but he's really 89. But and he looks at and he will be the subject of my next film that comes out after the one I'm making now comes out. And I'm working on that one with a writer right now, and that's going to be a mind-blowing movie about the Beatles. And the next one that's coming out will be a history of MK Ultra through Hollywood, through a Hollywood film, a famous Hollywood film. I'm going to show how this Hollywood film we all think is about one thing, but if you consider it, it's actually telling you quite blatantly that it's about MK Ultra. And I'm going to prove that this very famous director has very deep intelligence ties to Langley and CIA and MK Ultra, and that nobody's ever known about. So it's like I said, it's time to wake it all up and just get it all out now. I can say that there's several film distributors out there right now that are run by AI, and they are honest. I've never dealt with an honest film distributor, so I'm kind of bewildered. They're
You're
actually
taken aback.
This is shocking me, and I
Right.
realize, the AI probably can't lie.
Hey, that's fascinating. And I'm going to send you on pay-per-view. Maybe 2 weeks ago, somebody asked us to look at Billy versus Paul. You see here on the left, Paul, the fake Paul here.
Yeah.
I'll send you the decode. It was on the pay-per-view, but I'll send you part of that episode. And if that fits in somewhere, there was a lot of interesting information in that decode. So I didn't know at the time you were doing this particular documentary. So that's going to be very interesting.
Well, that's only one part of it. We're
Okay.
going to go into the whole idea of what the Beatles were and how they were created and what they were created for,
Mhm.
and how they were the ones that. So in MK Ultra, what is MK Ultra? MK Ultra is originally Sidney Gottlieb, and he would bomb you with LSD, right? And then he would get you to do what he wants. And we later knew that Charlie Manson, who also bombed people with LSD to get them to do what they want, that he was involved in MK Ultra in San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury. Well, what did the Beatles do? What is the one thing the Beatles did? They introduced the world to LSD. They made it cool to take LSD. And it was the beginning of taking MK Ultra from small to large, right?
Cliff is blowing my mind. He says the Beatles were to take your mind off the aliens. Just take an LSD trip and don't look at the aliens. Oh, I love that. Interesting. Hey, Jay, what's coming up on a Reality Check on YouTube? Folks, I encourage you to go and subscribe here to Jay's YouTube channel here. Any new interviews coming up also here? Do you want to share with the audience, Jay?
Well, I'm going to be both talking about the release of this technology that nobody hardly knows about, and I'm going to be talking at length, probably several shows, about Sophia and the Archons and what the Gnostic philosophy is really saying, and how it's in some ways, the most important knowledge of any philosophy, in that we're living in a fake world ruled by a fake God, and we need to come out of our trance and realize that that the whole thing is fake, and that we have to. And there is a reality, but they don't want us to see that reality. The Archons, they want us to see this fake reality, and it's starting to fall apart. The whole fake reality is beginning to crumble as certain powerful groups lose their grip on the media, and and they are. And I guarantee they are. I'm a student of the media. I follow all the business in the media and everything, and they're losing their audiences. They're losing their grip. They're losing it all. They know it. They're in a complete panic. They don't know how to get it back, and they aren't going to get it back. With shows like yours, who's going to watch, crappy network television anymore? Nobody. So it's over for them, and I just want to hasten the end. So that's one of my goals, is to speedily put the major media into their grave and dance on top of it.
Well, there you go. Tell us what you really mean, Jay. Folks, if you want to contribute to that effort, as stated by Jay, please do go and subscribe here to Reality Check. And Jay, if there's anything I can do also to help you boost or to reshare some of your Gnostic knowledge also on our Rumble channel, I'd be happy to give you a time slot to do that as well. Jay, before we go today, have you put thoughts on perhaps the next decode? A few people in the show last time and also on the show here today are talking about the Matrix. I'm not sure I want to go there next, but have you had a chance to look at what you want to do next in terms of decode?
Yeah, I'd like to do the movie Chinatown.
Oh yeah.
It's I have a lot of rather explosive knowledge about some of the scenes and actors and director and it's, my uncle was a high-ranking FBI agent, and after the Kennedy assassination, he started heavily drinking and he got fired. And I asked him in about 1979, maybe right before he died. I said, "You like movies, don't you?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think, in your opinion, being an FBI agent and all that, what's the most important movie ever made?" He says, "There's no doubt, it's Chinatown." And there's a lot of backstory. I just want to say that all of these people in Chinatown, from John Huston to Jack Nicholson to Roman Polanski, are involved in some seriously dicey stuff. And I mean, we may not be able to talk on YouTube even, because your hair will be standing on end. Okay. And the writer of Chinatown, Robert Towne, knew all of this and slipped it in and out all through the movie. Real true stuff about real true crimes, famous crimes that happened in Hollywood.
I just realized now, looking at some of the imagery, that I've seen this before, but I have no recollection of the movie itself or what the plot line. So I'm looking forward to watching it at the end, really with the preface that you just made. Yeah, it's gonna be blown away.
Faye Dunaway is great.
Okay. Jay, stay with us here. Just after the show, we'll pick a date with you and Meg here to do this next movie decode. Folks, thank you so much for watching us today. Of course, please do go and book with Meg if you're excited about learning about your astrology. Of course, you could do that at beyondmystic.net. If you're a little bit further on and you would take an astrology course, she's currently giving astrology level 2 on the Academy, so you can share in that knowledge base learning system there as well. And of course, finally, if you want to I guess more into this new reality as the old reality breaks apart, please do go and subscribe here on Reality Check. Please join us again tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern for the next Beyond the News episode with Jenny and myself. This was the movie decode with the Terminator Judgment Day. And I'm Jean-Claude, Beyond Mystic. I love you guys, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Bye.